Welcome. Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you today. I always look forward to our weekly chats, and thanks for showing up. Today, I was hoping we could talk a little bit about personal finance. I know there's been some stuff in the news that I don't know if I exactly call it personal finance related, but it gets people thinking about such things. So I'd love to hear any questions that you have, any thoughts about what's working for you, what's not working for you, plans, things you want to do, things you want to change. So let me know what you got. Reed, it's good to see you today. I know you've got some thoughts on this.
I got lots of thoughts on it, but I also once I start talking, I typically don't stop. So I'm gonna. I know this about myself. So.
Myself as well. I'll try to temper us both. Nobody wants to start. It's all right. Who uses a budget? Anybody budget? No. I've been a little
I'm
bad
new to
about
budgeting,
it
so I'm excited about it.
Oh, good. What are you using? Are you just doing spreadsheets or?
Yeah, since I got engaged in the last year and got a house, it was hey, I have to have my stuff together or else they'll take my house. So
that is true.
Right. We're actually kind of juggling between plans. It started off with a giant spreadsheet where every time I spent money for a month, I noted it. And if it was essential, then I added it all up and said, this is what I need every month. Or this is how much I need to spend every month. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're handling it okay. So any beginner tips from anybody would be fantastic.
I mean, I'll start if that's okay. But I use YNAB. I like it a lot. It's short for you need a budget. I know I have a bunch of friends who really enjoy using it as well, and it's one of my favorites. So I can send you a link here if you like.
Yeah.
If you sign up, we both get a free month.
Uh-oh.
So I have a financial incentive to get you to sign up. How about that?
And the pyramid scheme took approximately 2 minutes to kick off. And
right, exactly.
Multi-level marketing. I'm sorry. MLM. I'm sorry. It sounds better that way.
Exactly. Does it? Does it sound better?
I don't know.
So, but yeah. So that's what I use. I like it. I haven't been as good recently as I'd like to be. So there's reconciling and stuff like that that I haven't been taking care of as much as I should. But,
so with that, Michael, is that do you do it at the beginning of the month? You set out what your budget's going to be, and then you try to stick to it? Because that sounds slightly next step from what I think I heard Randy say. So I do more what Randy does, which is I track things so that I know how I have done over time, rather than trying to set a goal that I then try to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think both are fairly valid. I think that but it's two, like, they each has their benefits. Like, so the YNAB very much promotes a forward-looking approach where you kind of say, this is what I want to spend my money on this month. Now, granted, they are very, they definitely encourage you, hey, if you decide that your priorities change and you want to use your money in a different way, do that. But the biggest thing is they want to make sure that your money is going to the things that are important to you. And if you're not being at least a little bit forward looking about it, then you end up spending here and there and everywhere. And you're like, I spent $100 on that and I don't really care about it or enjoy it in any way. Why did I do that? So that's kind of, they've got 4 rules that are really useful in kind of planning how you spend your money. And I've enjoyed kind of thinking through those, working through those with my wife and that kind of thing. If you do get started with YNAB, I'm happy to help you out and kind of show you how I use it and what I've learned. But also their customer support is just ridiculously good. They've got so many classes and documents and people who will help you out. It's pretty amazing. I know a lot of people use Mint
I think
as well.
it's really
Maybe use
cool.
Mint.
I think
Go ahead,
always.
go ahead, Randy. Was that Randy? Sorry. Randy?
I think I've got a bad connection.
Okay.
I'm gonna log off and be right back.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, what's up, man? It's Jason.
What's up, Jason?
Some of the things that my wife and I do, we use the Mint app that
Yeah.
tracks everything, and you can we actually sit down and put like an estimated budget in, and then it tells you like how well you did against your budget or if you went over, and we categorize everything.
Cool.
In like certain, I guess categories, and say, hey, entertainment, food, things like that. And everything really has a little, spot. But the big thing that I think a lot of people don't do is think about paying yourself first before you start paying your bills.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, like set aside a savings. So I try to do at least 10 to 15% of my, income, and I pay myself first before I pay anything out of my budget.
That's awesome. Good call. So
Love that.
that's one of my very favorite personal finance books is called The Richest Man in Babylon. And that they just hammer that home. It seems like on every page. And there's a phrase from that book that I love, which is, a part of all you earn is yours to keep. So I actually have that one on my list of reading and viewing recommendations.
Yeah, along with that one, I highly recommend Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. I don't know.
That's a great
I need
one.
to see how many people are in this before I offer this suggestion. I need to budget this here. How many people?
Right, exactly.
How many are in the house? We got 10 participants. All right, here's the thing. If anyone is interested in that book, I will buy it for you. Just let me know.
Right.
That's a book that I gift. So if anyone is interested in it, I have gifted it to anyone who will take me up on it. And I've still made far more money and far better financial situation from reading that book. It's phenomenal. And if you don't want to read the book and you just want to go to the website, his website's got amazing stuff too. It's JLCollins.net or something like that. But his blog posts are phenomenal. Investing does not have to be tough. It can be very, very simple.
Yep.
Live on less than what you make and invest the rest. And really, as it turns out, it's quite simple.
I was listening to someone talk about this recently, talking about the pay yourself, and also mentioned paying off debt. I think there's something that closer to my generation is really important, is that a lot of us are in a lot of debt and the economy has not been very good to us. I'm not saying this doesn't affect everybody, but I think millennials and newer might really suffer from that a lot. She raised a really interesting point that typically the going idea is that you should pay off debt as fast as possible. And I agree with that. That's a very good rule. She also said that you should, before you pay off your debt, pay your minimums of your debt and have a rainy day fund approximately 3 months to live off of. She says you will pay more on your debt, but you will also not have a catastrophic incident send you down a spiraling path. And I think that's something I'm trying to do right now, is to still pay off my debts, but set aside some money.
Trouble is, if you don't have a rainy day fund. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say that one of the tricks, at least right now, with money being cheap like it is, because you can get loans for very low interest rates, there's not a lot of incentive to pay down your debt, because you can just throw it in the stock market, and in general, it will make more money than paying down your debt well. So like I have a friend who just bought a house and he's like, I'm paying minimums until it's paid off because I will make more money by investing it than by paying off the loan.
I just did that.
That's
I
something
just
to consider.
refinanced the 15 to a 30 because I got 2.75 interest rate on my house. I will
Wow.
take as much money at 2.75 as someone wants to give me because I make a ridiculous amount more than that just investing in the entire stock market.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, I'll say that the money that I then turn around and invest in the stock market, a lot of it is tax deductible as well,
Exactly.
which you do not get by paying down debt.
Those tax advantage accounts are so valuable.
They're massive, massive. I
So
Are
just
you
did
all
my
talking about
taxes, and
mutual
I mean,
funds here?
So the first thing to look at,
yeah, I
Go
do
ahead.
ETFs. I do Vanguard ETFs.
Yeah.
Across
the
the
first
board,
thing to
and
look
that's-
at
yeah.
is going to be your IRA and your 401k. And so if you are doing savings outside of your emergency fund, rainy day fund, whatever you want to, everybody calls it something different. You want to look at funding your retirement accounts first. Okay, because that is essentially the largest expense you will ever have. And it is very far in the future. So you have a lot of opportunity to fund it and allow that money to grow.
Do you mind if I try to rephrase what I think I'm hearing to see that I understand the concept?
Please,
so
Randy.
if my loan, because I've got a house, I'm thinking about refinancing. It's not a good rate right now, 4%, something like that. If I can refinance that down,
Yeah.
okay. I keep hearing people talk about 2 point stuff. And I'm like,
Oh
that
no,
sounds
you can get
fantastic.
great. I'm just saying like 4 isn't like terrible, but yes, you could do
4% is
better.
Nothing to sneeze at all.
Right.
So rather than paying ahead on principal, investing in the market means in the long game, I will be making more money on my investment than I will be by losing, not paying ahead on my principal. In theory, is that kind of what's going on?
That's right. You're borrowing at, let's say your loan is 4%. You're borrowing money at 4%. So if you were a manufacturer or a distributor, and someone would tell you, I'll sell this book to you for $4, and you can turn around and sell it for 10. How many books are you going to buy at $4? Every bit that you can buy. Now, that said, that presumes a whole lot of things. One, that your mortgage is over 30 years, so you cannot have a short time frame investment concept here. That sets yourself up for failure that way. But if you are thinking long term, and in these retirement accounts like Michael's talking about, I don't know people's ages in here, but like most of them, you're not going to be able to touch till you're 60 and a half. So that time is sort of built in there with some of that stuff.
Right on.
That's assuming that you keep it in the same thing and in the entire market, because there's a lot of averages, and the numbers are something that most people lose money in the market. But also the numbers state that when I was born, I think I think the market was at like a couple thousand, and it's at 20 something thousand now. So like it's, how could you possibly lose money when the market goes up like that? It's because people try to time the market, and it's kind of been proven that that's a losing proposition over time, unless your name is, one of a few very specific names that everyone knows, unless you happen to live in Omaha.
Exactly. Yeah. So once you're maxing out your 401k and your IRA, now you can talk about things like paying down your mortgage, things like that. But make sure you're doing that first.
Any Dave Ramsey fans in the house that I'm about to piss off? Yeah.
I have a Dave Ramsey book that I've never read.
I like Dave
Yeah,
Ramsey.
Reed, that's where
I like it a lot.
That's where I did a lot of my like getting out of debt was Dave Ramsey methods. Yeah, I think it's a good way to at least get out of debt. But there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with on some of the things that he does. But from a very simplistic perspective, it's a good just discipline to use, especially to get out of debt. So really, if you look at like my situation, I have the only debt I have is my mortgage. So
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, I think he does a very good job speaking to specific audiences who need to hear that, look, you are in problems, and the reason that you're in problems is because of that. I feel like he kind of drops the ball though. Like for me, getting through, he's got the baby steps, and we can link to those here in just a bit, but like the first 3 baby steps, like that's the better part of a decade for me. And then as soon as you clear baby step 3, which is basically, I think it's pay off everything but the mortgage, like then you're done, and he doesn't have anything else for you because the rest of them are so simple. If you've gotten to the point of paying off all your debt, then saving 15% of your income and having 3 months to live on is like, that takes like half a month after you've done all the other hard work. And maybe that's just me, but that's when I quickly ran into like, well, now what do I put this 15% that I'm saving into? And he doesn't really have anything there that I have seen, aside from, hey, use one of the people that I recommend, which feels a bit pyramidal.
Yep.
Once you get to that point, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, I've read a lot of the stuff on the, more the FIRE kind of thing, which I know that not so much him, but Chris Hogan, the other guy that's with. I wish I had his voice. Man, what a voice. But they are very critical because people are using rewards credit cards to pay for stuff and then pocketing the cash, and they're deathly afraid of credit cards. And I get that it's their main message, is that most people that come to Dave Ramsey are probably not having great options there, but I put everything on a rewards credit card, and it pays, and I pay it off every month. I don't carry a balance on it, and just bought all of my appliances for my new kitchen that's going to be put in. And to be honest, I could pay for every single one of your all's books with Amazon credit for this. So this is perfectly fine for me to do this, but again, it gets paid off every month. Yeah. So.
Can I ask maybe a different direction question? This is so relevant to me. So I've, as usual, got a lot of questions. Self-control is always a big part of budgeting, is what we're finding. I think everyone has their things they want to splurge and impulse purchase on. What we're finding is we're trying to say, hey, here's how much money I'm allowed to spend on things that are recreation. Just sure, you want to buy that thing, go buy that thing. I'm curious, does anyone have a percentage point that they shoot for, or a goal, or is it just as little as possible, and any rule of thumbs out there?
So this is one where I kind of like Ramit Sethi's philosophy on this. And he says to cut drastically on the things that are not important to you, so you can spend extravagantly on the things that are. And, some people, they love to eat in restaurants. They'll spend $100 on a restaurant meal. Some people love to buy shoes, and they just want to buy shoes, every week they want to buy a pair of shoes. The important thing being that you set aside money to save, but then you spend on the things that are important to you, determine what your real priorities are. And that, that really helps to give guidance to, because every dollar that once you realize that every dollar that you spend on that thing, I can't go spend on that other thing when I really like this other thing better, that helps to change those habits. That's been my experience, at least.
Yeah, I would also say that if you change the idea of this, for me, the big shift, one thing, my wife and I started playing a lot of board games, strategy board games. And then once we did that and we realized that, look, it's just a game. It's just money. Money is just a game. The rules are set. You know what the rules are. The IRS tells you what the rules are for taxation. It's just a game. And you just take all the emotion of that out of it. It's far easier to have conversations about it, which is cool. But then, like, I don't know. I'll stop there. But that's where I think. I also think that, like, this idea of saving is this concept. It gets associated with this concept of delaying self-gratification or something, like to where you're saving this money. It's like, and that's no fun because it's keeping you from doing something you want to do now. But if you change your mindset to saying the number one thing I want to buy with my money is stuff that makes more money, it's a fundamental mind shift. But if you start thinking about it that way, for me, this is what I tell my kids, what's my favorite thing to buy? And they're like, stocks. And I'm like, yeah, I like buying stocks.
Yeah, my favorite, I like to look at it as I'm buying myself time in the future, because that's, if I'm maxing out my 401k now, let's say, maybe I can retire, or even if I don't want to retire, I have the option, have the ability to retire if I want, or I could take a part-time job and work at a library or something, or a museum if I wanted, rather than, working for the man.
Is JL Collins the one that uses the phrase "fu money"?
Yes, that is JL Collins. Yep.
It's pretty awesome.
He's one of my heroes for sure.
But yeah, I love what you're saying, Reed, about how, saving, it just like when, especially the way that we often refer to it, it just feels like this like, really almost like it's harming yourself, and when you think about it in the terms of paying yourself first, or part of all you earn is yours to keep, or thinking about it that way, then it seems like the thing that you're doing is most for yourself, right?
I'll say if you can automate any of it too. Like, so if you are with a company that has a 401k and you can set that percentage, it's both a tax deduction, which means you can buy more and you pay less in taxes at the end of the year. And then it just removes all emotion from it. Just make sure you're not paying a ridiculous amount of fees in your 401k, because that is there's a lot of predatory stuff that can happen there. But like in my case, we've got that. We also have an HSA. All my contributions to HSA are tax deductible as well. In fact, if you do have an HSA, it's one of the very few things that if you contribute via payroll, you actually get around the FICA taxes, which are actually the highest tax rate that you're likely to pay unless you have different money concerns than what I do. Because there's 765, but then you pay that, and then your employer also pays that. So it's actually, you're over a 15% rate on that, which is typically higher than the default. So anyway, we set that, we forget it. Yeah, similar, Jason, I think I put 15 to 401k, and then I max out whatever our HSA is at the end of the year, and then we max out the IRAs. At that point, I mean, yeah, I'm done working to Nick's point very soon if I don't want to. Even if I start with nothing, it doesn't take many years, even with 3 kids and a dog and splurging on stuff like this 32-inch monitor I'm staring at, and brand new desk and chair, and yeah. But it's, Michael, to your point, and that was which one was the one? I'll Teach You to Be Rich. Is that the book you were referencing earlier?
That's Ramit Sethi's book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just don't, I refuse to spend money on something that I don't want to spend money on. So, which is most things.
But something you do like to spend money on, like a bicycle.
Well, now you're hitting below the belt, Michael. See, and we don't talk about how much I spent on my bicycle. I sold a used car to buy my bicycle. We've discussed this on prior talks.
So somebody asked about Roth accounts, and I think for me, most of my retirement savings is going into Roth accounts. I actually split a little bit in my 401k, but I'm actually going to lean that more towards the Roth in the near future.
So I have not been. An anecdote there that I did get hit with this year because so my wife does not work, or my wife does not get a W-2. Let's say it that way. It's not she doesn't work. She just doesn't get a W-2. I am covered under an employee-sponsored retirement account savings program with a 401k. I hit a limit to where I could not deduct all of an IRA this year. I invested her in a Roth IRA, me in a regular IRA, and I only got to take credit for half of that deduction this year. Had I flipped it around, I could have gotten an IRA deduction this year for her and the Roth IRA for me. So there are ways, if you're planning early retirement, that going IRA makes more sense, because you can always do a conversion if your income is low enough. But that said, I also have a really nice tax credit with 3 dependents right now that I should probably do more Roth.
For those of us who don't know, would you mind talking about what a Roth IRA is and what the difference between a Roth and just a regular IRA is?
Yeah, Michael, you're gonna, or I mean, I can keep talking, but
I can take it if you want. So essentially, Roth versus traditional. There are both Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs, and Roth 401ks and traditional 401k. And they're usually kind of bundled together. It's not quite as separate as you make it sound. Essentially, what you divide into Roth and traditional contributions to an account. For your Roth contributions, you pay tax now, and you don't have to pay tax when you take it out. For traditional contributions, you pay no tax now, and you is taxed when you take it out. Now, traditionally, what they say is the determining factor on which one you want to do is whether you believe that your tax rate in retirement will be lower than now or higher than it is now. And that is a really important consideration. It makes a big difference. But also, we can't know that. Like, we can speculate. We can say, I think it's going to be like this later. I have my own opinions on that, and I believe certain things. But also, the one of the cool things that people overlook with the Roth versus traditional is the cap is the same regardless of whether you're contributing Roth funds or traditional funds. Now, every dollar of Roth funds you contribute are worth more because you won't have to pay taxes on them in the end. So if you are anywhere near where you're capping out any of those funds, if you convert to Roth, you're going to be able to get more money in there so that'll actually have more tax advantage money in the long run.
If you wait until later to pay, does that mean you have more money that's growing and investing, or does that not equate into it?
If it's the same tax rate now as you'd pay in the future, then it's just a wash. It's, whether you take 20% now or you take 20% then, you're going to have the same amount. But
I think I should rephrase that. If I don't take out the money now, won't I have more to invest that will grow into a greater number? And then, you know what I mean?
You're right. But so if I have $1, okay, and I pay the tax, I don't pay any tax on it right now, okay, and I invest it and it 10x's, let's say, it's going to be $10, and then I pay 20% tax on it. When I take it out, it becomes $8, right? If I have that dollar and I pay the tax on it now at 20%, and then I put in that 80 cents, and in the same way, that 80 cents, if I invested in all the same things, if I don't, then it would 10x as well. And so in the end, I have those $8 and I don't have to pay any tax on it. So it ends up coming out the same.
Yeah, basically the idea being, if you look over the course of the year, let's say you make $50,000 and you invest $6,000 in your IRA, which is your max unless you're over a certain age and you get to make up some stuff. If you put that in an IRA, all things being equal, and I'm taking out the standard deduction and all the other stuff that you get with taxes, right? But at the end of the year, if you've made, let's say you made 50K and you invested $6,000, your tax, you would have already paid tax on all of your $50,000 that you made that year. But at tax time, when you do everything, you would actually only be taxed on $44,000. And so you would have an overage, and that you would, all other things being equal, you would get a return at the end of the year from the government because you had overpaid throughout the year. Whereas if on a Roth, the money that you invest, the $6,000, you would not get that return back. But then when you withdraw that money in retirement, actually Roth is even better, right? Because it's only like 5 or something. There's only a certain number of years you have to keep the money in a Roth before you can take it out. You can actually take it out before 60 and a half. Anyway, that's conflating a few different ideas there. Sorry.
That's what I was thinking. That's actually an important thing to know about the Roth, that you can access it sooner without penalty, I think.
You can. You can. You can also, as I mentioned though, too, you can invest in your regular IRA, and assuming that if you plan on retiring, stopping work, I shall say, or greatly reducing your income, you can take the money out of your IRA, count that as income, move it into a Roth IRA immediately. And then what ends up happening is you do this sort of Roth conversion ladder thing that ends up happening. So while you are being taxed on that income at that point, if your regular other income is effectively zero, then maybe you're only paying in that 10 or 12% tax break range to switch that over. And then you would not have to pay. You also don't have to do, well, sorry, I won't go into RMDs. RMDs hit you at 70 and a half. Basically,
that's kind of more, if you're getting started on this, you don't have to worry about little things like that.
If you're getting started, just save as much as you can, put it in the whole market, and max out your tax advantage first. Yep. I think that's the JL Collins simple path right there. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, agree, Nick. Yeah. Related to the final bit there, does anyone have any good charities, things that they enjoy or that they are looking forward to maybe at some point investing in, or anything like that?
I have a friend who is going to be running for city council. His name's Evan. And he is just a great guy, and he really wants to help out fix homelessness and have Black representation in government. And I am all for that. And I don't have enough money yet, but my dream is to make a good chunk of change and be like, dude, I support what you're doing. Take it. And I can't wait till I can do that.
That's awesome.
We've got a bunch of small local things, but I'm always interested if there's any, cool things that, that we should be also interested in, so.
I know Mr. Money Mustache talks a lot about, I think it's GiveWell, where it's essentially determining the maximum value out of a dollar. Essentially, if the idea being, if you say that every human life is of equal value, then where is your dollar going to go the farthest and save the most lives and make the most impact in people's lives, which is kind of I find that really interesting.
I would be very interested in any links on that. That sounds really cool.
Okay, I can get that.
The only non-local charity that I give to is called, I really hope I'm not mispronouncing this, Methuselah, like the dude from the Bible who lives for like 800 years or whatever. Basically, they are trying to either like 3D print organs or just new ways of improving medicine. So yeah. And they have this little program where like if you donate like $83 a month, they put you on like this little special page, and like you can find me on that special page. So yeah, I will post a link in a second.
Awesome.
Reed, also you're muted.
Oh yeah, no, that was on purpose because I just sit here and ramble the rest of the time, and yeah.
Just making sure.
For all sake, that was a feature that Zoom added.
I know Reed, you like Vanguard, which I think is an excellent choice.
I do, although most of them, a lot of them are catching up now. You know, I like them just because they're inexpensive, you know, not actively managed. I can't pick a stock well. I definitely can't pick someone who picks stocks well either. You know, that
Right.
as a software developer, that abstraction does not hold water, so to speak. So
Right. I use Betterment, which is I don't even know if it's controversial, but some people like it, some people don't. It's a robo advisor. I think that they do charge a small fee, which I think is quite reasonable, especially compared to a lot of other advisors. But you get a lot for it. And I love that it is extremely focused on goal-based investing. So basically everything in their platform is focused on why are you saving this money, and then and driving you to make good choices with how you're saving your money. So they've got specific safety net goals that will structure the way it's invested properly for money that you're going to need to potentially take out of at any point in time. They've got a retirement goal, which is actually, they do a really cool thing where they allocate between your Roth and traditional and non-tax advantage accounts in the most tax efficient way, which is pretty cool. I like that a lot. So I know a lot of people like Wealthfront as well, which I think is a good choice. But that Wealthfront and Betterment are the two primary robo advisors. I don't know, does anybody else use anything like that?
I use Wealthfront.
Okay, cool.
I don't really have any reason for it, but as opposed to Betterment, I just picked that one. It does okay. So yeah.
Yeah, the user experience is really good with it, which honestly, for me, Ramit, he's a big fan of Vanguard, and he promotes just go with Vanguard, just do the standard thing. But he he's mostly talking to people who are relatively immature in their financial wellness journey, financial journey. And I think that having that, something that will almost hold your hand, guide you through the journey, really has significant value, especially for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in it. And that if you can create enjoyment and excitement out of that investment experience, I think that's pretty great. Now, Robinhood is a whole other thing which we can talk about, and I'm happy to exposit on if you care.
Should I invest in GameStop? Would you say? I'm being silly.
this is why I invest in VT-Sax. I invest in the whole market so that hopefully that washes out some.
Exactly. Yeah.
I buy all the stocks because I can't pick one and I can't pick when to buy it. So I just buy them all whenever I get the money.
Absolutely. Not only do I think you don't even need to think about GameStop. That's the beauty of it, Randy.
I technically do own GameStop. So,
right.
Yeah.
Same.
My brother worked for Fidelity, and he had to go through a lot of classes and get certifications. And when he was at his height of excitement, he proudly sat me down and said, here's, even if you invest and hit jackpot on a few things over the course of 30 years, if you invested in, I couldn't remember the name of it. I thought it was mutual funds and maybe home market, the safe, buy a little bit of everything and watch it steadily grow versus get really lucky a few times, but probably fail most of the other times. You're always going to do better if you play it safe over the long game. I was amazed by it.
Yeah, for the math nerds in the house, what I think is really interesting with the reason that works is the idea that if you do own everything, the worst that let's say you own 100 different companies. So we're talking about a set of 100 companies, right? So I'm going to get mathy here. But if we do have a set of 100 companies and they're all exactly right now at 100% of their value, it's 1-to-1 with what they own. The worst that they can possibly do is go down to 0, right? But the best that they can do is many, many times what their earnings are. And so if you constantly are doing that, then the averages are going to work out that it's far, far easier for the upward trend to happen. And that's what you see if you look at the stock market over any long enough period of time. So, cool. Yes.
The great thing about good personal finance advice is it's not complex to a large extent. It almost gets boring because like you're not asking, oh, should I buy the stock? Should I buy now? Should I buy later? It's just, no, I contribute on the first of the month when my money comes in and I buy basically the whole stock market and that's it. And he's like, well, I don't know. Intel's looking pretty good. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, full disclosure, I've tried to read the stock valuation books. I am not smart enough to figure it out, or to a point that I felt willing enough to gamble my own money with it. So I don't.
Gamble being the key word there.
Sorry. That was, sorry, I added a little bit too much connotation with that verb.
No, I think
It's easy to treat the stock market
perfectly
like a
appropriate.
casino. That's what's going on with that GameStop thing.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, my problem with it is, like, let's say that I find one that I think is at a good value. When do I sell? Because now I got to pick when to buy, and then I also have to pick when to sell if that's the case, versus just wanting to invest in a company and let it grow, you know?
And I think different investors have different approaches. Like you were saying that about trying to figure out the different, what are like the different things to read. There are different ways to approach evaluating stocks, and a lot of people like to short stock. I know people that do that. It's their whole game, and I don't totally understand. That's what's going on with GameStop, some sort of short squeezing, and I don't totally understand this idea of betting against the stock, and then how different people are benefiting from that. It's weird to see a stock go up so much because so many people are betting against it. That gets pretty complex in my book.
Yeah, the article that Sarah linked earlier about how Robinhood makes their money, makes me not want to use them at all, because what they do is they basically, before they trade your money, they sell what you're going to do to one of the hedge funds, a Citadel or something, and then that's how they know. That's how they know when to basically rip people off, or when to cause people to sell a bunch in order to make you lose all your money. So it's kind of, in a way, it's like you are the product, I guess, because it's free. And yeah, I don't know. It sounds pretty dangerous, honestly.
When I like a lot of the messages, I think early on, a lot of sort of the underlying theme is that there's not really a quick way to get rich. So if you look at it over the long term, it's not, you don't have to pick. I mean, it's so easy really today to you find an ETF or an index fund that is already sort of investing over. They have sort of a, what do you want to call it? Like if you like tech stocks, you go into a fund that invests in a lot of the tech stocks, and they what's that called when I can't think of the phrase, when it's varied, it's diversified, and it's sort of saves you against the ups and downs of what can happen. And over time, it grows. The money grows on its own. It's just not going to grow real fast, but over a 5 or 10 year period, it's better than keeping it in a savings account for sure.
Yeah, where you're guaranteed to lose money. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily lose money, but I mean, if you look at it from an inflation standpoint, yeah. I mean, if you're just sitting there and not collecting
that's what you got to look at.
I'll take $100 in 1980 before I'll take $100 today for sure.
I was wondering what you meant by that. That is interesting to consider.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm not even. Go ahead. I'm by no means a financial expert.
Oh, no. Same.
Yes.
Michael and I have geeked out on it a few times, which is why he knows how I feel about it. Not because I am an expert of any sort. No, I am desperately trying to learn as much as possible about it.
Well, that's why I was just going to say, shy away from the Roth stuff of paying that tax ahead of time, because, but this is your point, Michael, that you don't really know later on what the tax rates are going to be. It's just sort of assuming that the amount of money I'm going to be living off of is going to be less than what I'm living off of now. And so I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. So it just makes sense to.
Which isn't an unreasonable thing. You know, even if you just deduct out the amount that you're saving, like if I'm saying saving 10, 15% of my income, and, you know, I've saved enough so that I can live on, and I'm living on the 85% or whatever, and then I've saved enough to live on that 85%, then yes, my income will essentially only be that 85% of current. So that's not an unreasonable kind of assumption that your income will be lower in retirement. But there's so many other factors to take into account that it gets a little more complicated.
But I also, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, frankly, I look at, we're running a deficit right now, not an insignificant deficit. Maybe that's an indication that at some point we'll have to pay the piper. I don't know. I don't know these things well enough, but to me, that's kind of a, we've lowered taxes a lot. There might come a time we have to raise them again. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but.
Well, no, I think you could raise taxes and they could still be low. I don't think they're ever going to get up to an unreasonable. I mean, the tax rates of the 90s seem to work all right. I don't see them. I don't see things going back to the way they were in the 70s or even the early 80s. I'm
not saying that at all. You know, just doing a comparison.
But I do like the idea of putting into both, simply because the Roth, you have access to that money sooner. Where
absolutely
doing the other stuff, you can't really. If you basically should not touch that until 60 or older, because otherwise you're paying.
Right. Now, for people who are retiring early, for example, sometimes that, there's two options there. You can look at what Reed was talking about. You've got the conversion, the Roth conversion, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It for people who are really into financial independence, retire early. That's a very popular idea, because they essentially are like, yeah, I want to stop working as soon as possible. And so for some people, that's like 30 years old. And that means that they have a substantial period of time over which to convert those, investments into a Roth investment and pay very, very little taxes, probably no taxes on it. That's one of the reasons why I don't expect to retire too early, just because I got started pretty late. And so one of the interesting things about the taxes is up to a certain point, you pay very vanishingly little in taxes. If you make $20,000 a year, you're not paying a lot of taxes. So if you essentially in retirement, if you take 20,000 out of the traditional, and then the rest out of the Roth, you're going to pay almost no taxes that year. So if you go all Roth, you're missing kind of the benefits of having that traditional to pull out of, that you end up not paying taxes on now or in the end. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. Again, I'm not a financial expert. I'm like Reed, just trying to learn as fast as I can. I only got into this a couple of years ago, but I do say I really enjoy learning about it. Nice. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Mr. Money Mustache has great stuff.
Yeah, the whole idea of if you want to retire in, 17 years, then you just need to save half your money for 17 years, and then you can retire indefinitely off of that money. And anyway, it's a cool chart, and definitely see how everything goes. But that's how that math for retiring extremely early works.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. Maybe also questions. So is there anything we've said that has been confusing, that it just didn't quite make sense? I do highly encourage checking out both that J.L. Collins book and The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon is a little odd. It's very small. It's not a big book, but it's written in a very old manner of speaking and as a series of stories, which is kind of awesome. I found it intriguing, and I know other people have, but it really, some people don't like it. I thought you were going to say something. Yeah, Reed. Yeah, the these and nows, exactly.
Yeah, but it's like $1 or something on Kindle. If you did, you know,
It is.
I'm sure most of us have a digital device. It's like $1 on Kindle. A quick read. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to chat about this stuff if you want to message me or ask any questions. But definitely, if you get started with the idea that you pay yourself first, you save that 10% right off the top, then it makes it so much easier going down the road where it's just not even a question. You know, it's like, well, do I, you know, how much do I want to save? It's just like, no, this is the minimum. And I just do that.
Anyone have any cool spreadsheets or like?
Yeah.
A lot of devs in the house here, I'm assuming. So, you know, I've nerded it out entirely too much with spreadsheets recently. So
That's
I
fantastic.
do all mine on spreadsheets. I used Mint for a while, and that helped me kind of learn how to look at things. And then I was like, I want to do this on my own. So I got a big elaborate spreadsheet, all these different tabs.
I started working with some people doing that were needing me to help them do like create balance sheets and income statements and stuff for different companies. And I was like, what would my own personal balance sheet and income statement look like? And so I went all nerded out, double entry accounting on everything for me since I think last May. But the projections that I can get from it are pretty cool. It's quite tedious.
That's awesome.
It's tedious.
Yeah.
But I know, yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. And I don't itemize. I do, like my credit card bill when it comes in each month I have an account for credit card expense. It's not like,
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't break individual transactions out, which helps. I know, that's right, Nick. I know, right? It's awesome though. Yeah, I got my let's see, some cool things that I like to track, and I would love to hear what other people have here. But my net worth income growth as a percentage of my income. So let's say you make $100 in a week. How much of that goes to increasing your net worth? What percentage is that? That's cool. Savings rate, and then projecting out what I currently have with my automatic recurring investments, and over the course of the next however many years, what does that end up making that about? And, you know, I don't know. Anyway, I got a bunch of cool stuff that I like to play around with there. But yeah, one of my favorites is that net worth change per income dollar. Because that's
Nice.
As it turns out with stock valuation, that's one of the main things that you look for, right? It's that a lot of people look for, which is how well does the company use its own money that it earns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forget what term that is. Someone smarter than me probably knows in here.
I'm also going to sign off now. This has been fantastic. I love talking about
Thanks,
this stuff.
Randy.
You can talk math any day, Reed. I'll see you all
Ooh,
next week at
yes.
the latest. Or I'll
Take
see
care.
you next Wednesday. See ya.
Oh yeah, definitely. Software craftsmanship. It's gonna be awesome. Tyler's speaking, so
Tyler and I have been holed up together over a couple weekends, saving a client. So
Oh no.
all good stuff. They're doing well.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, sometimes you get those panic moments, right? Like, oh, this is about to go bad.
Yeah, it did. It did. But I got to work with Tyler over a couple weekends. So yeah, Tyler's time talking.
That is always good.
Mess with your mind when he starts talking about that. Makes Roth IRAs seem obvious.
Yeah, it's like, it was easy. Hey. Cool. Well, friends, if there's no other questions or anything else you want to discuss, I think this is a good place to end it. But like I said, I'm happy to entertain questions for a few more minutes.
Financial literacy is always a good topic. Should be revisited time and time again throughout the year. So this was
absolutely. I enjoyed this. I like the topical, so I've been really enjoying, I've got you all here. I've been enjoying the featured guest idea, and I think that's going pretty well. But this topical one is something new that I'm trying, and I also enjoyed this. So if there's changes you want me to make to TN Tech, please let me know. I might try to send out a survey soon. We'll see, just to see what people are thinking and how we can make it even better than it is right now. But I really enjoy it, even as it is, but trying to never get too, there's a word that I'm looking for and I can't find it, but not just happy with what it is, and always trying to make things incrementally better.
Well, cool. I'm gonna head out. This is great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your night, and hope to see you next week.
Yeah.
Take care.